No doubt you'd like to know how to go about combining images together inside Photoshop, because really that's a big part of Photoshop, taking elements out of individual photos and then combining them all together, right? Well, that's what we're going to look at here, and it's actually a lot easier than I'll bet you think it is. I have two images open here. I have clouds.jpg open here, and then I have another image open down in the background, which is statue.jpg. And what I did with the statue, by the way, is just sort of off camera, or while I wasn't recording, I selected this sort of drab sky in the background of the statue. And I did that just by using my quick selection tool, and it took 2 seconds for me to select it. It was real quick. Because what I want to do is I want to replace the drab sky inside the statue photo with the image of the clouds, the photograph of the clouds that I have in the background there. Now, when you go ahead and select your background, and you're going to have to do that on your own here inside the statue.jpg image, make sure you get the space between the statue's forearm and his staff there. I missed that the first time around. And this little gap of space in here just below his hand. And don't forget the little area in his wing there, and there's a tiny little sliver way down here in the bottom right corner. Alright, so when you have that selected, we're ready to roll here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom out on each of my images here, just so we have a little bit more space. And the other thing that I did is I went and opened up my layers palette as well. You might have to head to your window menu and then look for layers to pull your layers palette open. Now, what the heck is layers? Well, layers is kind of like stacking order. I'm sure you've seen this in other software applications where you can take an object and send it to the back or bring it to the front, you know, this sort of thing, right? And what happens inside Photoshop by default is images have what's called a background layer. And what that means is that no object or no other image can appear behind the background layer. So as it stands right now, I can't put the clouds behind the statue because the statue resides on a background layer, right? So give this a try. What I'm going to do is I'm going to convert the background layer into a normal, regular layer here inside Photoshop just by double-clicking on it. And when I double-click on the background layer, I get the new layer dialog box showing up, and it's prompting me for a name. So I'm going to call this guy Statue. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. Alright, wonderful. So now we see statue inside the layers palette. The next thing that I'm going to do, I still see my marching ants inside the image window here, and I want to get rid of this gray drab background, and I'm going to do so just by hitting the delete key on my keyboard. And as soon as I hit delete on my keyboard, I see that that area that I had selected is now filled in this checkerboard pattern. That's Photoshop's way of saying that there's nothing there. It's not filled with white. It's not filled with anything. There's absolutely nothing there. It's completely transparent, right? So now I'm in a situation where I can drop the clouds into this area, and we'll see the clouds wherever we see this checkerboard pattern. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to deselect Command D or Control D. And, you know, this bounding box, by the way, that shows up around my statue is driving me crazy. It shows up because I have the Move tool turned on. And I'm going to get rid of that bounding box just by unchecking this Show Bounding Box. Thanks for bearing with me there. Okay, now I'm going to go and grab the clouds, and I'm going to sort of position the clouds so that I can see both the clouds and the statue at the same time. Make sure you're on your Move tool, by the way, and just as a minor point of interest, take a look at the clouds layers panel. There the clouds resides on a background layer. But here's what I'm going to do with my Move tool. I'm going to click and drag from the clouds into the statue, just like that. And now all I see is clouds, right? But take a look over inside the layers palette. There's layer 1 and statue. Well, layer 1 is the clouds, right? So I'm going to double click on the text layer 1, and that'll allow me to rename the layer. And of course, I'm going to call him clouds and go ahead and hit enter after you type that in. Okay, great. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to the clouds, and I'm going to go ahead and close out of them there. And what we'll do next is we'll see how we can move and position the clouds layer.